Good morning, Lightworks engineers and all Class D personnel that are present today. We have a very special episode of Weekend Workshop where we just talk about technical development of everything Leadworks. And today we also have probably have quite a few people here for the SCP Containment Breach release on Steam, which we are publishing. I'm actually going to talk about the SCP stuff first because all the game engine people are interested in the SCP stuff, but I think probably a lot of probably most of the SCP people won't want to stick around for like a boring developer discussion about programming. So we'll do the SCP stuff first because everybody's interested in that, and then we'll do the more detailed development discussion of Leadworks and other stuff after that. And I actually kind of like this order because it actually, I didn't plan it this way, but it's going to tell an interesting story. How all of these things are a lot more related than people might realize. Actually, it's a lot more related than I actually realized before I started putting this slideshow together and before this week. So, with that said, this is a nice screenshot from Dumage. He always makes interesting stuff. So hopefully we'll see Black as Your Soul on Steam soon. We have a nice spot reserved for it. Black as Your Soul and both Lone Water would be great to see. So let's get to it. So SCP Containment Breach, as previously discussed, we are cooperating with Undertow Games to publish SCP Containment Breach, the original game, on Steam. The goals here for this is to get the original unmodified game up on Steam without making any changes, with very, very few changes. I want to go very conservatively with this because I want the real game. Any changes we make there are some things we can do that will enhance the experience for Steam without changing the gameplay. So, achievements are one suggestion that has come up a lot, and I think that's a great idea. I know the Steamworks API for this, so it's not a problem to implement that. Cloud saves, that's very easy to implement. Translations, Russian and Ukrainian languages are both strong candidates here, obviously, because we have very big... for some reason... this game is just very popular in that part of the world. I'm not actually sure why, but translation to Russian would be really awesome, either in the form of subtitles or alternative sound files for voice acting. I'm not sure yet, but it's definitely I think this is definitely something we need to look into. And then Steam Workshop support would be great. That would allow people to modify the game, and then with mods you could go crazy with that and turn it into something completely else. But then the original vanilla unmodded version would still be the original game as it was meant to be played, which is my goal here. I also plan to distribute an updated version of 3D World Studio for creating new custom rooms. This would include, so the program doesn't work. So 3D World Studio, it was never free software. It's a commercial product that I created. It's not open source. It stopped working in the transition from Windows 7 to Windows 8. So it needs to be updated to run on Windows 10 and 11. I would like to add support for the SCP Containment Breach RMesh file format, which it probably will not be very difficult to do, to just add that natively. And then integrating this with Steam Workshop would be an obvious win. That would just make a better experience for modders. And that means that the players will have just more to choose from and better quality stuff that they can add on to the game. So I'm actually one of the first people who integrated Steam Workshop, right when the system was the first version of it, when it was first being implemented on Steam. So it's a system that I know very well. It's gotten better over the years. The new version, it works more reliably, I think. So And my specialty is developer tools. That's what I've always focused on. Um, I'm not. I'm not super artistic. I consider the developer tools themselves to be, that's my art. So, the fact that this editor was used to create this awesome game and can be used to create more content for the game, that's very gratifying to me. That's something that I love seeing. So bringing 3D World Studio back, we'll probably add it as a launch option when the game runs, and it probably won't be called 3D World Studio. It'll be called something else that tailors it more for as the editor for this game. May make some other changes just to fit it a little bit more precisely to the game. But yeah, that kind of stuff is very fun for me. So I did some work with it last week, and I was able to get it running. Let's see. Okay, so this is 3D World Studio, and this is different. This is pre-Leadworks. And this has a very different design because in the options, you open up the options and it has like a directory where all your textures are stored. It has a directory where all your 3D models are stored. So it's really meant for use with any game. That's how it was designed, which is quite different from the Leadworks approach, which is like a full game development suite. 3D World Studio is meant to be just an editor for use with other games, and that's what it. So setting that up to work with SCP Containment Breach is not a problem. I mean, that's how the game was probably designed. I wasn't involved in the development of the original game, but yeah, setting this up to work with SCP to Containment Breach is no problem. So other ideas for future development, like my most aggressive development schedule I can imagine, would be to convert all the Blitz 3D code to C++, which would be possible. If anyone can do it, I can, because Blitz 3D was actually my second programming language I ever wrote. I published my own game. It was printed on it was like made on a physical disc, and it was sold in stores in the UK. It was called Metal, and it was basically like my version of Quake 3. Quake 3 Arena. It was a small game, but it was pretty fun. But yeah, I mean, it would be possible to port all of this code to C++. It's a lot of code, but one code file I was looking at was like 30,000 lines of code, which is quite a lot to pack into a single file. But the 3D World Studio source code is actually bigger than the SCP Containment Breach source code. This could be recompiled using Leadworks 5 for the renderer, or just writing a new renderer from scratch. I would not attempt to add like physics or other features in the game engine. I would try to just keep the original game, but just update the graphics a little bit possibly. And what this would really provide is future-proofing and longevity for the original game. Some improved graphics if it's done tastefully, as well as cross-platform support would then be no problem. Like having it running natively on Steam Deck would be no problem at that point. So the game itself, the original game, it runs with DirectX 7. I don't know if DirectX 7. I don't know if the original game is going to run on Windows in 10 years, but if we did do this, if we did take this step, porting it over to C++, then it definitely would run on Windows in 10 years. So, that's not anything I'm promising. Let's get these goals done first. But that's just some ideas that I have, things that we could possibly do in the future. And, if it goes there, I really like what Night Dive Studio has done. With a lot of older games, like this is the re-release of Quake, and I feel that the way that they did things, they made very good design decisions here because it still looks like Quake. It just looks better. They didn't go crazy with a new renderer and adding a bunch of effects that aren't really necessary that would turn it into something else. They retained the look of the original game. It just looks better. Like, this is how I remember Quake. in my imagination. That's what I think that they do really, really well. So if we did go there, I would kind of use Night Dive Studios as my guiding light of what should be added to the game and what should not be, what should be left out of the game, because I think they did a really good job with this. Okay, so I was able to recompile 3D World Studio off of some old source code backups that I have, and it actually runs really well on Windows. This is on Windows 10, but it appears to be working just fine. I could only create a light at this point because I have to recompile all the plugins, and they're written in Pure Basic. So it looks like Pure Basic is still being sold today. So I'll probably just buy a new license for it and recompile the plugins. If that doesn't work, then I can always just rewrite the plugins in C++. They're not very complicated. But it does appear like all the problems it had seem to be solved. More testing is definitely necessary, but it does, at this point, like things are looking good. This looks like it's going to work, which is very cool to see. So, of course, Friday afternoon, the Steam store page was taken offline. I'm in contact with Valve, and the situation is being resolved. We have everything's fine. We're good on everything. There's a process we have to go through, and it'll take about a week for us to get it back on. But it'll be back on. It'll definitely be back. And testing will begin thereafter. And finally, I just want to give a thanks to both Undertow Games for allowing us to act as the curator and for this game, and to continue developing it with our own editor that I wrote. And also Third Subdivision Studios. They actually, let's see, is he here today?
I am.
Okay, yeah, so Vein Brain, thank you. He's joining us today, actually. So he actually reached out to me quite some time ago about the possibility of updating 3D World Studio because it had those compatibility problems with Windows 10 and 11. And I understand he did some work on the current release of SCP Containment Breach. Yeah, he's been very helpful to me and very supportive of what we're trying to do. So I really appreciate it. Also, you should check out third. Let's see, there it is.
It's slightly, yeah.
Yeah, so he has check out Ninetailed Fox on Steam. This is available right now, and this is sort of like if SCP Containment Breach is sort of like Half-Life, Ninetailed Fox would be the opposing force for that, because it's SCP Containment Breach, but you got guns, and they're not useless. So you have some ability to fight back against some of your enemies. Would you say that's a good way to describe it?
Yeah, most of the time when people compare SCP Containment Breach to Half-Life, then yeah, the big comparison was that the Ninetailed Fox is basically the opposing force, because it's literally about you play as someone who in the original game is an enemy towards you. And yeah, it's like kind of almost like going a bit backwards from SCP Containment Breach, where like you have to escape from basically the beginning of facility towards the end, while in SCP Ninetailed Fox you start, at the gates or like at the end, and you progress like further into the facility.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Of course there's lots of like more things. I mean, originally the whole game, it was actually a mod originally for SCP Containment Breach with just guns, nothing much added after that. It was called Ninetailed Fox, but apart from just adding weapons, there was pretty much nothing made. And almost since, I mean, if I will say that how much it took for us to get where we are, it's probably will be shocking. But yeah, it took 10 years. And the reason for that is because it was a hobby project, first of all. And second of all, we've did actually worked on original SCP Containment Breach. So it's like modders helped out with the original game. And what can I say? Yeah, we've also been doing lots of new stuff, and some of it you are going to also have in Containment Breach. Like we've made our own system for achievements and also for translation.
Oh, okay,
Because
cool.
original
Yeah,
original Blitz 3D doesn't support anything apart from English symbols.
right. Okay, great. Yeah, yeah. So I've played it. It's pretty fun. It's the same setting, but it's a totally different game. And like yeah, it's like you're it's like in opposing force you're playing as a soldier that's going into Black Mesa, and here you're playing as an MTF agent that's going into the facility. So it's definitely worth trying out. Um, Okay, so I spent quite a lot of time, well, one full day working, looking at my old Blitz 3D, or this is Blitz Plus code. So 3D World Studio is written in Blitz Plus, and the code kind of looks like this. And this is actually like this is how I used to program, and this is the color scheme here is bright even by Blitz standards. Like this, they took the Blitz 3D color scheme and then they just made it a little bit brighter and more. Uh, yeah, it's pretty bright. Um, but before we go any further with that, do we have any questions about the SCP stuff? Containment Breach, 3D World Studio, the release on Steam. Any questions about that?
I did have a question regarding possible modding support that you are going to have,
Yeah.
like the workshop integration. So I understand that it will be easy to make workshop items like, for example, new rooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some probably a few other things like asset replacement. But what about a real big mods? Like I don't know, it will be possible to even remake SCP Ninetailed Fox with this system, or
Like
even
code.
Yeah,
yes.
like total conversion mods.
Okay, so that would be a more so again that would be like a more it is possible. It would be a more aggressive development plan, but it is possible. So we can't distribute an executable in the Steam Workshop. That would be crazy. Valve probably wouldn't even allow it, and I would not want to touch that. There are scripting languages for Blitz 3D. There are some old ones that exist. So probably the way to do that would be to integrate one of those script languages into the executable, and that could allow uh, extension and like programming of new things, of new behaviors and new objects. So I don't know like it would probably be a lot of work, and I don't know like if it's going to be worth it, but I think it is possible.
Yeah, I've seen the scripting language. It's something called, I think, Skynet. Uh, well, yeah, it is possible to integrate it in SCP Containment Breach. The issue is that it probably would require some rewriting of the code, because Containment Breach was made to be, just the way it is, right? It was never meant to have additional like scripting language on top.
Right.
So like everything like regarding loading assets, loading like I don't know, even like an NPC or like a room, especially a room with like events inside of it, it would require like some bits of changes. But it is possible. I was able to test the scripting language some scripting languages in SCP Ninetailed Fox, and I was able to create a simple NPC that was following the player. So some
What
with possible just
languages
requires
were
like
they? I remember like there were some. I just don't remember what they were from back in the day.
there's one called Skynet Plus Plus.
Huh.
It's close to like I guess I don't know how you say it's like Lua maybe, but not really. It's like something own. It has a bit of own kind of language. It's closer to like many like modding like scripting languages. Just like has some own quirks that you have to consider, but it is pretty simple and it basically relies on all the functions that you expose from the original game to it. So you can call them and then like this way you can create stuff.
Yeah, it's okay. No, I'm just
That's a lot of
thinking.
things. I understand that. I understand that's a lot of like to consider, but yeah.
Yeah, another approach would also be like if the C++ conversion, if that happens in the future, then exposing Lua would be absolutely no problem. That would be very easy to do.
Oh yeah, if you'll be able to port the game to a different engine, which is at this point around the community is it's almost like a curse because every time someone tries that, there was I don't know, it never went too far. So if you will be the first one to break this curse, then everyone will upload to you.
Curse breaker. No pressure. No pressure. Well, yeah. I mean, if anybody can do it, I can. I mean, like Blitz 3D is. I spent a lot of time in Blitz 3D. I know that system very well. And it was actually like kind of a good way to learn programming because some of the stuff I had to do was I had to like go very very low level with some of it, like poking memory around that you don't do with other languages because they already have a solution for everything. But in Blitz 3D, we definitely had to do some hacking to get things to work. But it's good. I think I learned a lot of really useful stuff from that.
And yeah, it's pretty simple like language to like start with, and then going to like something else. Like I think yeah, Blitz 3D was my first programming language that I learned, and then I moved to learn other languages, and I was like, oh hey, that's actually I know how these things work because Blitz 3D. Oh, of course you can do some, as you said, quirks with Blitz 3D. Like for example, you don't lock the buffer and do the right pixel fast and cause the blue screen of death on your computer. That's some fun stuff you can do.
Oh yeah, I remember that. So we have some comments here. Let's see. 2 years ago, Wazmeister says 2 years ago I was learning Blitz 3D and spent hours looking for a good level editor. I kept coming across 3D World Studio, but never worked. It never worked on Windows 10. So wish this remake was done then. Then again, think it's best I'm now learning LEDWorks and not Blitz 3D from the early 2000s. To make a bigger mod, use LEDWorks 5 and make the game. Is SCP not being remade on LEDWorks 5, I thought? Blitz 3D is amazing language. Wish I picked up in the early 2000s. Yeah, early 2000s were a fun time. So we're developing our own SCP game. We're not porting the Containment Breach to C++ yet. I'm just saying like that is something that we could do. That would be sort of like analogous to like the Source Engine remake of like Half-Life Source, I guess. Or like the Quake remaster, I think the Quake re-release I think would be a better analogy actually. And then at the same time, like we have our own SCP game in development. We haven't released a lot of information about that yet, but that's also going on. I think like I said, the first step is just to get can we get the original game in a good working state, released on Steam with some of these extra Steam things like achievements and such, plus a new build of 3D World Studio out. I mean, it looks good so far, and it just needs more testing at this time. files be shared? I don't know. Probably. I don't see any reason not to. Yeah, I mean, my changes are going to be pretty small. So maybe I'll just create. I haven't created a new repository for it. I'm just poking around in the source code, but yeah, I don't see any reason not to just make that. The changes that I do make, I don't see any reason not to make that open source so that other people can learn and utilize that. Things are done. Offer a learning aspect to how things are done. I don't know if that's something you want to use for learning. It's a lot of code, and it's using a lot of. I mean, the biggest issue with it is the memory management in Blitz 3D. You have to explicitly. It's basically the same as C language. So you create and delete things explicitly. The problem is if you have like an object and you create an entity and you create it, and you have another variable to it somewhere and you delete it, and then with that other variable that's storing the same value, you call like position entity or something, then that's why you get that memory access violation error all over. In C++, we have shared pointers, that's the same thing as automatic reference counting. And those work really, really well. It's not full garbage collection, so it runs very, very fast. The only downside is it doesn't detect circular references, but it eliminates that problem of invalid pointers, because invalid pointers are just that's a big problem for any project that uses that type of memory management. And it's eventually like, once your project gets complex enough, invalid pointers or uninitialized invalid pointers, those are going to get you. So that's why I rely heavily on shared pointers, because it just totally eliminates that problem. I'll start the event. I haven't actually started it yet. Any other questions? So yeah, the big suggestions that we got were achievements, translations, Steam Workshop support, and what was the other one? Cloud saves. Those are the things that keep coming up. So thank you guys for your suggestions. We'll be handing out Steam keys pretty soon, in about a week, once the store page is back up. Really appreciate your participation. And again, big thanks is due to Undertow Games and Vein Brain of Third Subdivision Studios. Check out Ninetailed Fox on Steam. It's available right now, and it's a lot of fun. So, okay, if there are no other questions about the SCP stuff, we'll move on to Leadworks game engine. Okay. Now, this is an interesting little segue. So, like I said, I was looking at my old Blitz Plus code, the source code for 3D World Studio. Huh. And you'll notice, like, this is the approach to this is procedural. This is a procedural API. It's not object-oriented. And in Blitz Max, that's when Blitz started going towards in the object-oriented direction. And I actually think that was kind of the downfall. That was the beginning of the end of Blitz, actually. There's this trend where things like users tend to drag things in the direction of more complexity, even up to and past the point where it damages the product and makes it worse. It makes it a worse user experience. And I've been on both sides of this. I mean, I was probably one of the worst customers for the Blitz products. I was probably one of the most demanding, loudmouthed, obnoxious customers. And I would demand things like, I insisted that Blitz Max needed to be multi-threaded. And then when it actually happened, I didn't actually end up using it for anything. So, I've been on both sides of that. Like, people will demand things and insist they need things that they don't really need and won't actually use if you give it to them. But anyways, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here. The point I'm trying to make is about simplicity, and I'll circle back on this. So the Lua tutorials, I put a couple of weeks into making a lot of tutorials, and the Lua series had very, very positive feedback. You know, I was really trying. I knew that like probably 95% of users were not really getting onboarded. Like it was beginner. Like the people who come to Leadworks, a lot of them are beginners, and I knew that we were having problems like onboarding those people. So I needed to put some time into tutorials to really give them what they needed, and we had a lot of ton of positive comments on YouTube and stuff, but I want to read this this thread Mappa created, and I just love this because it's so spontaneous, and it reminds me of like when I started programming. I remember what that felt like. So let me sip some my espresso here. Hey Josh, I don't know exactly in which category this post belongs, or pretend you are going to read it all or answer to it, but I'm going to write it either way and slap it here because I don't care how my words come across or what opinion of me one can have. I have to share what I feel today. These are my thoughts, raw, in the heat of the moment, trembling with emotions. Okay, here's a screenshot. Look at this. I made it. I'm programming, and it is thanks to you and this incredible engine. So far, nothing big, nothing fancy, just following your last tutorial on YouTube about components. Child's play for 99% of people. I don't know about that. So why am I writing this? Context. Since I'm watching the videos and stopping every 6 seconds to go into the manual and understand why you are writing certain things, for example, local window equals active window. Okay, good. He's going to the documentation. And I go about and read through the definition and then the example, trying to figure everything out. It is an extreme slow process, but I'm learning. Not without aid, but nevertheless understanding why in this example it is an if statement and why it does what it does. Good, very good. Back to the story. Midway through the tutorial, I run into an issue as I pressed release. The error, of course, was indicating the line and what code was faulted, but believe me, I could not in the world understand a thing of this error, in part intimidated by the so many lines it had, in part a previous experience with coding which were always resulting in quitting right at the start. I always found myself looking in from the outside, wanting to be a part of this world of programmers, but of course too exclusive. But it ends today because today I finally overcame that feeling of being completely useless at coding. Well, great. Only because you are teaching me how to finally look in with this amazing engine, your amazing tutorials, and the tools you are building within it. You know, I don't think my tutorials are that amazing. I think mostly it's just that I'm removing the unnecessary noise, and I'm just telling you exactly what you need to know. And of course, you're the one doing the work to figure that out. I'm just giving you the information you need and eliminating all the noise, because it's the hardest part about learning is just when the teacher overwhelms you with a lot of extra information that you don't need. And that's what I really try to avoid. So I'm glad that seems to be working for you. So with Visual Studio Code and Copilot or ChatGPT and whatever tools are used today, I would never understood the mistake I did, because this mistake would have never happened in the first place. Tools built to remove the human mistakes or to speed up processes would have made me a cripple right now from the start, but at the same time, tools not integrated in your engine would have left me right there at the door again, looking in outside. Again, not understanding why it doesn't work, referring to IDEs without AI or IntelliSense or whatever is the name of the thing that auto-completes your code, because I don't know how to use a debugger in any other IDE. To explain before I give out the wrong vibe, I have faith in machines and AI built to cancel prevent human errors, which could, in the future, or already are causing damages, death, extreme economical or environment issues, etc. In those machines, I have faith, and AI is pretty much humanity's next evolution stage. At the same time, I have faith in machines built to teach or explain without judgment and with the patterns that humans lack in most scenarios, without the patience that humans lack. For the things that don't matter, for the things that don't cause harm to others, I personally don't want to lose what makes me prone to error or my creativity or wanting to learn things that I don't understand. So yeah, this is where I stand with AI. It sounds like you don't like losing control. Like you want to be told like what you need to focus on and the correct information, and not a bunch of irrelevant information you don't need, because that just overloads you. You don't want AI to give you the answer. You just want the real information. So that's what I'm trying to get across to you, because I remember like how hard it was to the initial learning process. I remember what that was like. Back to the story again. Okay. So I pressed release and I got the error. So instead of quitting again or just have AI tell me what to do next, I went back into your video about the debugger. And that was it. Laugh my ass off. This is the story. Cheesy, too long, too messy. Heck, I even appear. Hello, YouTube algorithm. But I don't care because I'm so freaking happy. So this is actually a mistake on my part. The error, there are several formats errors can come back in, and I parse them and display them in a more compact manner so that you don't have to see stuff like this. So I actually need to test this more and figure out like why this error actually appears like this. Because most of the time it just jumps to the line and it has a short little message. But the text that I parse can come in several formats, and this must be one that I haven't accounted for yet. But regardless of that, he was able to figure this out. I used the print to see something in the console. The only things I could see were the error, and I understood the error. Thank you, Josh. You are changing a life, mine. And as small and silly this whole example is, it is truth nevertheless. Rest in peace if you read the whole thing. So, yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of stuff like this. Like somebody else said something like in the YouTube comments, they said, I've never been able to understand programming before. Now I can understand it. And, I don't think my tutorials are anything that special. It's just that I'm being very focused on and telling you, just laying out the information one step at a time and telling you the things that you need to know. Because I believe that you are smart enough to figure it out. But if you're getting all that, people are shouting all this extra information at you and you don't know what to focus on, then that makes things very, very difficult. So that's what I'm trying to do. And Wasmeister as well. I mean, I notice he's been making a lot of progress on Discord and on the forum. I've seen like some of the things he's been trying to do, and it's like, he's now at a stage where he's trying to do things, he figures out what's wrong, and then makes progress. So, it's very cool to see people are able to people that previously might have had problems with this kind of thing are now able to pick it up and start learning. And it's really awesome, because I remember what that was like. When I started, the power that I had with things like Blitz 3D and Dark Basic as well. I wouldn't be a programmer today if I had not started with those simple tools that just gave me the information that I needed and protected me from all the information that I didn't need. So anyways, Wasmeister is typing. Sounds like it's probably going to be kind of long, so I'll come back to it. Okay, so based on all this feedback, I was like, okay, these people are very important. These are the people who are coming to Leadworks, and that's where a lot of growth is coming from. So I want to do, is there anything I can do to make their life even better? So I added a few scripting enhancements to the script editor. I'm calling it a script editor now, not IDE, because a lot of people don't know what an IDE is. One was auto-completion. Another is syntax help in the status bar. And another is jump to the correct documentation. And I want to show you how that works. Did Wasmeister finish his thought? This dude sounds like me, little worrying. Can this guy tell me how he is using AI to find answers? Sounds like it would help me too. Oh, I probably don't recommend using ChatGPT or anything else right now. Yeah, it's not good. I don't think it would have helped me. Okay, so I want to show you. Okay, so This is just a screenshot of autocomplete. And then you can see, so I have create window selected, and down in the status bar, it's showing the syntax for that window. All this data is fetched out of the online documentation. And I think I can show you this working right now. So you can see when I move the caret, that's the cursor on the text editor, you can see when that moves around, it changes. So create world is, I'm inside the command create world, and it notices that, and it says, oh, I have an API reference for that. So it says create world. This function creates a new world object. Okay, key down. Returns the current key state of the specified key. Okay. If I start typing, there's the autocomplete. Create cone. Okay, now you can see down here it updated the syntax help to create cone. And if I go to help documentation, it's going to go right to the right command. Cool, huh?
Yes. The only thing I noticed though is that if it doesn't reset when you're on a blank line.
I'm not sure it should.
Yeah. I don't know. Just one thing. I think, like, instinctively, I think it should, but I understand why it shouldn't also.
I'll have to try like both ways. I noticed like right away, the reason I actually disabled that, at first it only worked if you were inside the word. So like this, it would still do it because you're on the same word. But as soon as you like went like this and started adding parameters, then it would disappear. And then I was like, wait, I want to see what those parameters are because I'm using that to type. But maybe, maybe like if you go to a new line, maybe if you change lines, maybe it should reset it. Or maybe if it goes to a blank line. There's still time. I mean, this is just the initial implementation, so there's still time to adjust that behavior. But this is what I have right now. And the whole thing is like this whole idea came about because of the experience of I was actually sitting down with somebody watching them try to type code, and they didn't have a lot of programming background, and I just realized like they just have like a blank, this blank text editor, and they had no idea what to write. And without autocomplete, it doesn't really give you a lot of indication of what commands are even available. Right. And with autocomplete, if you have those commands, you can figure out what the commands are, but you still have no idea what the syntax is unless you have it right here. I mean, you can go to the documentation, but that's, you're going to be flipping back and forth a lot. So this idea here, showing the syntax down here, this is actually something that Blitz 3D does.
Right.
So
no, I think this is great because there's, at least to me, it's like a lot of friction going to Lua, because in C++ I can just right click on the function, go to, I can look at the header and see what I need to do or explore options, whatnot. And I think this helps a little bit.
So yeah, I mean, it seems like we're getting a lot of really positive feedback from people who are using Lua and are maybe programming for the first time, or they don't have a lot of experience. And that feedback has been very, very positive. So when I see something like that, that makes me see, okay, like if I get a strong positive reaction, then I put more effort into whatever is producing that reaction, because I realize I'm making people happy and I can make them even more happy. Okay, so I want to talk about a procedural API. Now, the problem here is, let's say entity set position. Okay, it knows set position. But let's look down here. Well, set position is used for many different classes. All have that method, set position. And here it's showing that says this method can be used to move a navigation mesh. Well, this isn't a navigation mesh. This is an entity, or at least I think it is. I haven't actually even defined it yet, so it's not anything. If I say A set color. Well, what is A? It's not anything. I haven't even defined it yet. Let's look at the syntax help. Set color, widget color. Okay, this is talking about the widget set color method. Ooh. Well, that's not good. That's really confusing. A set. This is just showing me set for every single class. It doesn't know which is which. And to make matters even more complicated, like Lua is a dynamically typed language, so there's really no way of knowing. Now in Roblox, they sort of solved this by making you define your variables. They're using something they call luau. So it's a branch. They branched Lua, which is a huge, huge job. I mean, they have the resources to do it, but they're also stuck on like Lua 5.1. This is how you have to do it in Roblox, and then their autocomplete system will realize that, okay, this is I know what type of object this is. That's not really great, because defining the type is optional in that language, in luau. And because you don't have to do it, you still end up with situations where it doesn't know what the object is. So that's, yeah, I mean, you're sort of like adding more complexity, and you're trying to turn it into C++. And at this point, actually, I take back what I said about wanting to make this more like Roblox, because the Roblox API is actually like horribly complex. It's basically like, why don't you just use C++ at that point? But, looking at my old Blitz code, this is Blitz Plus, not Blitz 3D, but same idea. You have commands like add gadget item. This is for their GUI system. They call it gadgets. I call it widgets. And also in Blitz, you don't have to add, if something doesn't return a value, you don't actually have to add parentheses around it, around the arguments, which is kind of cool. I like that. But, they have commands instead of like widget add item, they have things like add widget item. That's procedural. Let me show you what that means. Object-oriented API is like you start with the variable and then you call the method and then you add the arguments. So it would be like entity set position 1, 2, 3 are your arguments for X, Y, and Z, or entity get position. A procedural API has functions like set entity position, and then the variable, the entity object, is the first parameter in the function. So it would be set entity position, the entity, and then 1, 2, 3 for the X, Y, and Z positions. Or get entity position, and then you provide the entity variable object as the parameter. Well, that seems pretty easy. The object-oriented API seems pretty easy, but what if the variable name is something different, like thing set position 1, 2, 3, thing get position? What is thing? You can't tell just by looking at it. You have to find where thing was created. What if thing was passed to as a global variable or something? You have to go and find it. So it's not as obvious what things are. So that right there this is definitely harder for beginners. The procedural approach would just be set entity position thing 1, 2, 3. So you know that thing is an entity, right? Because it's being passed to this command that says set entity position. That's one difference. So I implemented just a minimal, only these commands, but I implemented a minimal procedural API in addition to what we already have. And this is what it would look like. So everything's the same until you get to here. And then instead of calling camera set clear color, you're calling set camera clear color. And then camera is the first parameter. Set entity position, camera is the first parameter. Light, that's the same. Set entity rotation, that's how you would, instead of calling light set rotation, which I think, yeah, this is here we're calling light set rotation, light set range, light set color. With the procedural approach, we're saying set entity rotation light, set light range light, -10, 10, set entity color light 2. Set entity color on the model again. This is a little bit different. In the object-oriented API, we're saying window, closed, and window, key down, model, turn, world, update, world, render, and then passing frame buffer as an argument. With the procedural approach, we're saying, while not window closed, window, key down, window and the key, turn entity, the model, and then the other arguments, update world, render world. This is very much like Blitz 3D code. This is a procedural API. Let's take a little bit. So you have basically like three kinds of functions. You have set functions, get functions, and actions is how I would divide it up. So set functions, that's when you have like a function that's like set something, and you also have another function that gets something. It would be like, oh, actually this is, I made a mistake here when I was typing this. This should say set entity color, not set color. That should say set entity color, entity 1001, instead of entity set color, which should be set entity color. And then get functions, it would be like get entity color. So the function name, it has the class, the type of object that it is in the function name. And then you have actions, and that's more something where you're just performing an action. It's not a set or a get, it's just something that does something. And so that would be, instead of entity turn, you would have like turn entity and then the entity. So that's the object-oriented C++ style versus the procedural Blitz 3D style. Now, why am I really talking about this? Only the procedural API will reliably work with autocompletion. I showed you how autocompletion doesn't know what type of object something is. And in fact, in Lua, since it's dynamically typed, any variable can be any type. It's not possible for it to know. So the procedural API is the only way to make autocompletion work reliably without giving you wrong suggestions. The procedural API is the only way to reliably get syntax help to work. I showed you how it was showing the wrong syntax. It was showing for the wrong class that had the same method name right here. Okay, so Steamworks update, it's showing me the world update method. You see these two things right next to each other have the same method name, and it doesn't know which one is which. I could put a lot of work into doing like IntelliSense, like Visual Studio does, but it would probably never work very well. I mean, even IntelliSense in Visual Studio with C++ barely works. And it would be a ton of work, and it ultimately would still be unreliable because Lua is dynamically typed. So that might not be the greatest use of time. And it's, in addition to that, it's still kind of confusing because you can't tell if you're just saying like thing set color. Well, what is thing? I don't know. You can't tell from the object-oriented API. That's one of the drawbacks of it. And you know, I'm thinking a lot about Lua beginners because those people are responding very positively. They're very enthusiastic about LeadWorks. We're bringing in a lot of those people. So how can I make their life better? Well, the procedural API, it would work reliably with autocompletion, it would work reliably with syntax help, and it would work reliably with jump to documentation. Like here, if I hit F1 or I go up here to help, it takes me to the wrong page because it doesn't know, because it just says update. If it was update Steamworks or Steamworks update, I'm not sure which, then it would be unambiguous and it would take me to the correct page for that. So that's quite a big change I'm proposing quite late in the game. We already have all of our documentation written here, and it's all with the object-oriented approach. This is probably at least 2 weeks of work to go through and change all of this. But we're in early access right now. If we're going to make a change, it makes more sense to do it now rather than a year from now when we find out that people are having trouble with this. it would make more sense to fix this now and have it in full release. I would probably do this. I would probably just leave the object-oriented methods in. I probably wouldn't remove them, so all your existing code would still be compatible, but all the documentation would change over to this procedural API where it would, instead of entity set position, there would be a function that says set entity position, and the entity object would be the first argument, like we see in this example. Set entity position, camera, and then your parameters. That's what it would look like. So we would be applying the Blitz 3D programming approach to the Lua API. And I have had this idea before, but I think it's really just the combination of seeing like how many new users are coming in through Lua who are learning Lua from the first time. I can't really in good conscience recommend that they start learning with the object-oriented API, which is going to give them, the autocomplete is going to give them wrong suggestions. The jump to documentation is going to take them to the wrong page. The syntax help is going to show them the wrong syntax because it's showing it doesn't know which command they want. I could put a lot of work into making IntelliSense like C++ using, and I would have to do something like what Roblox does and like totally branch the language and invent my own programming language. That's probably a huge amount of work that will probably create a worse result. Like, I think this overall is probably easier for people to understand just because it seems like it's so much like spoken language. It's like set entity rotation, set light range, set entity color. That's very, very clear what that does. And I remember what that was like as a new beginner. I remember what a difference that made. So that's what I'm thinking at this point. And I haven't, honestly, like I wrote about this on the forum and I haven't actually gotten a lot of feedback. And it's a pretty big change that I'm proposing. Oh yeah, take a shot every time I say Roblox. I've only said it like 3 times.
I think we counted 4. Yeah.
Yeah, he said 3 times. I was right. Okay, so.
Yeah, but then you said it again.
Okay, well I'll stop now. Let's see. Would be good for function call, spread to multi-line, the R word. I'm still thinking the language server protocol would be better as you get pretty much everything you're doing, but better for free. I don't know what that is. Wazmeister, thank you for joining us. Lua LSPs actually have type hints with Lua comments, so no need for a new Lua sec version. I don't think they can't be reliable. It's not possible for them to be reliable because Lua is dynamically typed. I'll take a look at it. If you can give me a link to it, that would help so I know that I'm looking at the right thing. But I don't think it'll ever work. Or Roblox would have already be using it. Sorry, I said it again.
Oh, take a shot.
Yeah, to everybody take it. Okay, I'll take a sip of espresso. Okay, thank you. So I will take a look at LSP, but I don't think it'll work with our API. I don't think it'll, bottom line, and like I think it'll sort of work, like sometimes, kind of, but with a lot of work. But I don't think it'll ever be reliable as like just as this. So this doesn't have any problems because create frame buffer. There's no duplicates of it. It's just one function, and if I hit F1, it goes right to the correct page. That's what I want. It's unambiguous.
So if there's any other feature or new class that gets added to the engine in the future, will there be a object-oriented exposure to Lua, or will it just be the procedural one going forward?
I'd prefer not to add any more Lua methods.
Okay.
Whatever we have, I would just leave that in, and just say like this is deprecated, which means you shouldn't use it, but it's not going anywhere. And then
Right.
from then on forward, I would just use the procedural approach for everything.
Right. Which means we probably have to go through the components again just to make sure it uses the procedural stuff.
That'll be easy to switch over. I can probably do that, and I mean, ChatGPT could probably handle most of that, and then just go through and clean it up. I mean, that'll take me like a couple hours at most.
Gotcha.
Language server protocol documentation and specifications page. Again, before we look at this, I think it's going to be a beautiful theoretical idea that doesn't really work, and it doesn't really work the way we want it to. That's my impression without knowing.
Josh, that's the entire tech industry.
Yeah. And a language server, like autocomplete, that's what we want. Okay, well, this is just a protocol. Implementations, that's what we want. Language, okay. Wow.
LMNO.
Lua. Okay, so we have 3 to choose from, which is the one true one. I'll go with this because it's the first one.
It's not 10 cent.
It's still a work in progress, but it's usable. Okay, that's not promising. Let's go with the Chinese one. The language server has opt-in telemetry that collected usage data and sent it to the development team to help improve the extension. Oh, that's for Visual Studio Code. Okay, does it work as like in general? Probably. Yeah. Okay, this one that looks a little bit more promising actually. Tencent has one. Lua Helper. Lua is a very popular coroutine development.
This is the one I was recommended to use when we were using Visual Code, and I just saw the developer, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll pass."
Yeah, we'll take a look at all of these things. I don't think they'll work. I don't think they'll actually do what we want, but I will look at it with an open mind. So thank you for as I predict that it will fail, but I'll try to be open minded about it. Like, no, really, because I do want to. I mean, if it is possible, I still don't know like what my decision would be, but if they do work, then then I'll at that point then I will see how I feel about it. It's hard for me to like predict like in the future, like, well, if this happens, then under these conditions, I'm going to make this decision. It's really hard to, but then like when you actually get there, then the answer becomes really obvious usually. So I definitely will put some time into looking into that before I make any firm decisions on this.
Right, but if you can get this open in an afternoon and it solves all your problems, it's better than 2 weeks of changing API context.
I don't have an LSP server, so you just use the interface and the user can choose which server to use. I don't think it's going to work. Honestly, like I don't think it will be able to. I would be very surprised.
Well,
I think it'll be able to analyze the whole Lua project, and it'll be able to show like if I typed a Lua function somewhere else, I think that will work. But I don't think there'll be any way for me to like tell it that, that create world returns a world. I think it'll sort of work, sort of, but we'll see. We'll see. That's my prediction. If I'm wrong, then I'll be happy to admit that. We'll probably have a result on this next week. So thank you very much for bringing that up. Anyways, this is why I like to have these discussions, because I don't think of everything, and I don't know everything, just almost everything. Yeah, I'll give it a try. Do we have any other questions about Lua, the wonderful world of Lua?
No, I was just gonna say, I think going the procedural route ties everything back, ties everything together with like SCP and your roots and everything. So
yeah, there's something else going on, and that's like I said, like when Blitz 3D, when they started going in the direction of OOP, that was kind of it was very cool and powerful, but it was also the beginning of the end. Because once you start doing that, when they made that decision, I think they left a lot of people behind who didn't adapt to that paradigm. And they attracted new people, and so their new user base was made up of more people who are more demanding of, like, they wanted all that advanced functionality, and fewer people who appreciated the simplicity of what they originally offered. And that kind of thing can become a positive feedback loop. Let's take a look at some Blitz 3D code. I have no idea what this is, so... Okay, so they do have types in here, actually. They just don't have methods. So that was kind of the cutoff point. I want to show like a really simple example.
Yeah, not like a game.
Right.
Here's the examples right here,
I think they're a little bit too much.
Well, I want to show like something really, really programming tutorial. I don't want a video. I want... Okay, I know where.
Oh, they get to download that. Oh, wait.
Oh, we can just go straight to the Blitz 3D repository. It's got a bunch of samples in there. You go into release. There's a folder for the release. No. Oh, this is okay. That's 3D so loud. Okay, that's it. So yeah, actually, I think based on this, I'd say Blitz 3D was probably his most successful product, and it didn't have the complexity of Blitz Max, did it? It had fewer features. It also, he also was able to deliver a 3D engine, which he didn't do with Blitz Max until much later.
Right.
So, let's look at some. Okay, let's look at Mark's examples. Teapot, that'll be good. That's Blitz 3D code. Okay, so he has one include here, so, and that's probably got some initialization stuff. So let's take a look at that. It's start.bb. Okay. Okay, so this is the loop, I guess. Okay, he made an intro screen. I see. So he has this function called set graphics. This is the window creation command. Like, this is creating the window and setting the back buffer. Mm-hmm. So this is the command instead of create window. So this is doing like the frame buffer and the window at the same time. And in Blitz 3D, you just have one window. It's very simple. In Blitz Plus, actually, this is interesting. Let's take a look at the create. Look at this. Create window, title, and then this is the X position, the Y position, the width, the height, the parent window, and the flags, the window style. If you're a LeadWorks user, this command syntax should look very familiar. Create tabber, X, Y, width, height, parent. This is the LeadWorks syntax. For both those commands, that's exactly the same. Create window and create tabber. That's exactly how they're defined in LeadWorks. So you can see some of the influence there. Simple Blitz 3D example. I just want to show like a simple little like one code thing. Like, I mean, one page.
Yeah, Blitz kind of looks like Lua, but I think Blitz looks a little bit more random to me. I don't know. Like less structured.
Okay. deepai.com. This will probably be wrong. This is what Blitz 3D code looks like, approximately. Wow, they must be desperate for money now. Look at all these ads. So initialize the graphics window, create the cube, while not key down. This is a comment here, actually. So they're not showing the, they don't have correct syntax highlighting on this.
It's wrong. There's no camera function.
Oh, yeah, that's incorrect. But this is, I mean, this should actually look pretty familiar if you're a LeadWorks user. Rotate entity, render world, flip, that's like, that's swapping the back buffers. And then that's the end of the while loop. That's approximately what it looks like with bad syntax highlighting. So it's very, very simple. And I think, you know, when they went to the object-oriented approach, they kind of lost that simplicity. And then you had people like me, who were probably some of the worst users, honestly, who were, you know, demanding more and more complex features. I wanted, you know, multi-threading. I wanted this and that and the other. And I didn't really need those things. In retrospect, knowing what I know now, I would have not, my recommendation, if Mark had asked me, would have been to don't do multi-threading, but weak pointers would have been very useful to have implemented in Blitz Max. But it's kind of like as soon as methods were added to the language, as soon as you went from the nice procedural commands that are very, very clear, set entity position, get entity position, as soon as you went from that to the variable and then the method name, I think that a lot was lost. And that was sort of the beginning of the end. So, I don't know. It's just something that kind of occurred to me last week. I was thinking about a very interesting concept where, like, your own users can sort of, like, keep demanding more and more complexity and dragging things in a direction to where it actually like makes the product worse and makes the user experience worse. And that is why the far less capable product language, Blitz 3D, that's why it's the most popular repository here. It's good because of the simplicity. Kind of interesting. So, yeah, I'd say that's sort of an argument that, you know, some technologies should be limited like, languages, especially like, I guess this applies to game engines too, to some extent. But you shouldn't. There's a place for simpler languages and a place for simpler technologies that let you do most of what you need in a much more efficient way, versus more more complexity, more complexity, more complexity. Because once you go down that route, it's pretty much just it all ends at C++, which nobody loves C++. C++ is a language defined as all the features of every other language combined together into one big super language. Nobody loves. I loved programming in Blitz. C++, I'm very good with it. I can get a lot done, but I don't love it. So on that note,
I just like C++ because it compiles and there's no just-in-time errors because you made a typo somewhere during runtime.
So, with that said, that was a big dive. I mean, that was an update on the current release of the SCP game on Steam, and then talking about 3D World Studio and how that ties into, like, even today, the technology that I'm working on right now. So yeah, this is 3D World Studio. And let's go back to the LEDWorks 5 interface. So this is how it started. This is how it's going. Big changes, big improvements. The technology has come a long ways, but you can still see the basis of that. And so it was kind of interesting. I'll finish this with some. I normally don't show AI generated art in these things because I'm not sure how I feel about them. I have mixed feelings about it, but these are pretty good. The user YUE, he came up with these. LEDWorks 1 and LEDWorks 5. That's kind of cute because 3D World Studio was, there is an engine in there. There's a very simple game engine in here that became LEDWorks 1. So that's kind of LEDWorks 1. Then LEDWorks 5 is what we have now. That's in early access. It's about to go to full release. Very, very powerful, very cool, very fun to use. But this image is a really nice analogy to like how it actually has grown, because I love both. I love them both. I have a soft spot for the little guy. I kind of would like this to be a 3D model of this. I would like this to be our little like mascot for game tutorials. I think it's cute. And then this was clever. I don't know how he got the placement of the logo. Looks really, really clean here. I'm not sure how he did that. Because I can't make, like, if I just like type something into Bing image generator, it doesn't look like that. But this is kind of cute. It's just like this little robot, and he's got the LEDWorks sign, and then Unity is, just smoldering in the background, probably due to shooting themselves in the foot too many times. But
I like these taking a selfie.
That's cute. Yeah, I don't know how he the placement of the logo looks so good. I don't know how he.
Yeah, we need him as a model. So when we do third-person templates or something, you can have him run around.
Yeah, it's a cute little character. It would be a cute like mascot for the engine.
Yeah, so I need 3D models out there.
Yeah, I can get this done pretty easily. It's just a cartoon style.
Yeah, but you animate and rig it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. You're much bolder than I am. I don't like the touch animation.
Oh. Well, I mean, I don't do it myself, but like I know people who can. So and cartoon stuff is pretty easy to animate. Okay, so that was like me talking for a solid hour and 20 minutes, and I think I'm losing my voice. Let's see. Let's take a look at the comments again. Please don't add toolbox like in Roblox to Ultra Engine. I don't want to see stuff like this. Oi. What the heck is this?
Not watch this, it's scary.
It's like as YouTuber code developers.
Do you guys know what I did before this? I worked for Blizzard for 7 years. No, actually, I worked for NASA. Oh, working at Blizzard, was that difficult? Was the security screening difficult to get through? Tell me, what countries are you not allowed to go to travel to because you worked at Blizzard? Tell me. That sounds very impressive. I just worked at NASA. I don't know anything. Little robot, Brazil flag, RBXM. I don't know what that means. I'm not up to speed with all this newfangled internet lingo. I just know the old-fangled internet lingo. Okay, so any other questions about any of that stuff? We talked about SCP Containment Breach on Steam. It'll be back up soon. We'll start testing soon, along with the updated version of the level editor. We talked about the Lua tutorials and the feedback we've had from that. We talked about proposed changes to the Lua API, possibly using a procedural API, implementing that, which would be a couple of weeks of work at least, but it might be worth it. Also, I promise I will look into the Lua server protocol thing. Maybe it'll work. We'll check it out. Game template. Well, I want to answer that. Yeah, exactly. I want to answer this before I proceed with making a bunch of tutorials for making games. I need to have these questions answered for sure. I like it too. I think it's easier for beginners. Just because the type name is included in the function, so it just feels more like English language. And you don't have to like hold the shift key down to, yeah, it doesn't look scary programmer stuff. And I remember how that, I remember that feeling. Will it still be the same Containment Breach we know, or it's going to remake it on your engine? Any plans for Containment Breach? No, so it's going to be the same game. And, I was talking about future possibility, the possibility of possibly porting it to C++ in the future, in which case we wouldn't want to use DirectX 7 for the renderer. We would either want to use a new updated renderer. LedWorks 5 would be a good candidate for that, or a custom renderer built just for that purpose. And if I did take that step, I would try to. I think it would be very important to keep things true to the original look and feel of the game. I think Night Dive Studios has done an excellent job with their stuff. The one that I'm really familiar with is the Quake remake, but this looks just like I remember Quake. This looks just like it. They didn't turn it into something else. You don't see a lot of weird specular ray traced stuff all over. It looks like Quake. It's just a little bit better. I actually thought this was stencil shadows at first because the shadows are very sharp. But I zoomed in and I saw some soft edges, so these are just really high resolution shadow maps. But I think they made very good decisions here. It's very, because I've seen other remakes, re-releases of Quake and other stuff like that, and they like to put a butter, the buttery bloom filters on everything and make it as shiny as possible because they're trying to show it off. And I think Night Dive does it. I think their work is done very tastefully. And if it did come to that, that's what I would endeavor to. That approach is what I would endeavor for. I would aim for. I use C++. Okay, well, you got no problems then, because you are a professional. I use C++ too, but I don't love it. I like what I can do with it, but I don't love it. Lua is actually the only other language that comes close to Blitz, and I gotta say, I like Blitz better. The bloat-free version of what? Oh. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, C++, it's It's an octopus made by nailing legs onto a dog. Let's see, he's typing. All right, last question or comment here. Okay, they're arguing about different versions of C++, different like extremely rare versions of C++. Okay. Okay, well,
Yeah,
thank you.
It's just I dealt with like old, like in the source engine, you didn't have like the standard library. You were pretty much, it was pretty much C with classes. That was it.
I programmed in Quake C.
Nice.
All right. So thank you everyone for joining. And again, thank you to Vain Brain for his help and support and encouragement through all of this. Really appreciate it. Big thanks is due to Undertow Games, of course, for being gracious enough to allow us to curate their game on Steam. Really appreciate that. And I'll just do my best to make sure that whatever changes that I make are done very conservatively, not to change the game into something else, but to just make it truly better, but still the same. I don't know. I don't have any. I don't know. Possible. So, thank you everyone for joining. I'm gonna stop the video now.